So, I forgot I still have to have a mic over here. My bad.
I got all that. It's just not crystal clear.
I am so sorry. So it's our first time going live.
Hallelujah.
I thought it was time that I kind of just told more than the 1,000 people that listen to my podcast.
1,000? That's a lot.
About my podcast.
Hold up, it's 1,000?
It's more than
Well,
that.
it's more than 1,000, but there's 1,000 like legit people that
Die hard.
listen. So
fuck
die hard.
yes.
So thank
Hello.
you guys for listening. I just thought I'd let the rest of my followers know about my podcast today.
Amen.
So feel free to log off anytime you feel like it, because we can't get up and stop the live because we're actually recording this for our
YouTube,
podcast. Streaming. So it'll be on Spotify, YouTube, and it's also on your regular Apple podcast app. So just be sure you go over there and subscribe. I don't know that we'll go live all the time, but with that being said, welcome to Her Lounge Podcast. I am your host, Marisol. This is my sometimes co-host when
Hello,
she's available. This is my
I'm going to be here more consistently.
Thank you.
And I keep saying that, but I will.
and this is my girl, Marissa.
Hello.
With the Juice Caboose, and we're going to get into the
Shout
Juice
out.
Caboose today because she hasn't been here in a minute. And then we have my podcast producer
In the background without a camera. That's
in the
okay.
background without a camera. So what's up, Rob G TV?
I'm excited.
He's the one that puts out all my clips, and he's the one that makes me sound cool and look cool
Amen.
on the internet. So
Amen.
thank you, Rob. So
You're welcome.
before we get started, if you're new to my podcast, we always start with the positive quote. And our positive quote today is, once you replace your negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll start having positive results.
Okay.
Because we were talking about negativity a little bit earlier. So, you just got to replace them. You got to replace them.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh,
there
damn.
goes that.
Roberto, can you get the iPad?
And you get my iPad. That is just so.
It's all right. It's all
It feels
good.
so hard.
It feels so hard.
Okay. So y'all,
That's a clip
Yes.
right there.
It feels so hard.
totally.
Stop it, girl. I was supposed to go to the city a month ago and I still haven't gone back. Boo, I've been working on my other business. My son's going pro. I've been so busy. But anyway,
So Caboose is not coming anytime soon.
she's coming. She's coming. That's why
You're
I started
still doing online orders.
I'm
though.
doing my orders.
Okay,
And
so you're
I've
still doing online orders.
I'm,
All right.
I'm doing my orders because I wasn't open in March the way I told everybody I was going to be.
Okay.
So I was like, I need to do fucking something.
Okay.
So let me start taking orders. I almost died taking my first round of orders because I thought it was going to take a while, and it didn't. And this is when, dude, Marissa's been so sick, and she, you know what I mean? It's just craziness, and then just trying to keep up with everything. And then for the new people, because I didn't have a problem telling Jessica, bitch, you gonna have to wait. You know what I mean? But for the new people, I didn't want to disappoint, so I had to just push through. But anyway, we're going, we're moving.
So any idea of when you'll officially open up again?
God, I didn't want to say spring 2023, but I'm gonna have to say summer 2023, and that's what it should have been. And I wasn't being realistic. I was just
Hey,
ready
shit
to
happens.
go.
I know about that.
You know what I'm saying?
I know all
we
about
gotta
that.
do something because people are gonna forget about us. And I think that was my fear. And I was like, okay, we're gonna be open in 3 months, but that didn't happen. Boo. I had to be realistic.
And it's just because of busyness, not so much because
It's because
you're
of busyness. It's because of busyness.
Okay.
I have to be the one to go and do all of that shit. And so I just haven't had the time to go back to the city and give them my new stuff. So anyway, but we're getting there.
We're getting there. But you
We're
can still
getting
get some online
They can
orders.
still order. They
So
can
let
still
them know
order.
where they can order, Marissa.
Well, what I'm just doing is my DM, my Facebook, all of that shit, because I'm breaking up.
It's going
the juice
down in the DM.
It's going down
Slide
in the
in for the
DM,
juice.
guys. It is. Text me your order 832-873-9553. Anyway, but it's going down. It's
Okay.
going down. We're staying busy.
Well, that's good. And Rob now doesn't live in Houston anymore.
Yeah, I can officially say now. We live in the Central Texas area. I won't say specifically where, but it's great, and I encourage everybody to visit it if you haven't.
There you go. We're all making changes in life.
Fucking
You know what I'm
amazing.
saying?
Your headphones are they're on, by the way, if you want. If you want to wear them, yeah. And point the mic a little bit more at you, you'd look like a...
Right now, I'm looking like I'm a first-time
Podcaster?
Like I've never done this before, but I have. I swear, y'all.
You look like
We've been
DJ
doing
Envy.
this. We've been doing this for how long now?
A couple
Are we
years.
going to 2 years?
First,
Yeah.
come on.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And
We're
I'm
making 2
2 years?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
That's okay. The sign off to the side, guys.
Oh.
Son of a
It's funny. Anything that can go wrong has gone wrong.
Yeah, and
It's
we're
okay.
usually way more put together, but because it's live, I think we're nervous because we've never gone live. So there you go. I'm just gonna be honest.
It's all good.
But Rob, so Marissa's always sending me the craziest.
The craziest.
The craziest.
I know her mind is fucked up.
Because of you.
Marissa.
And that's why I send her sick shit.
Marissa, but when you sent me that, I said, I wonder if she sends anything like this to her other friends.
No.
Or am I just the only sick friend
No.
she has?
No.
I am your sick friend.
You are.
And I think I'm the only one
You're
that gets
busted
it.
and disgusted.
Yeah.
Busted and disgusted.
That is what it is.
Woo! It's crazy.
Bro, she sends me this documentary called Pervert Park.
Yep.
How does one find Pervert Park?
That is the same question I had, but
I watched it.
I watched it
about 8-9 years ago.
What made it come back up on your
It didn't. I went to research it. I went to look for it again when I was trying to do my research and find out why people do the things that they do to little children. I guess I just went down a rabbit hole. And I found some disturbing videos that they did of like people who offended, right? Different interviews, and some of them from like the 60s and the 70s, just like a lot of old shit you can find on YouTube. But I found this one, right? Pervert Park. I didn't know what it was. Clicked on it, and it's basically a trailer park where they put all the sex offenders in Florida. And they can't live by schools, they can't live by places that have children, so they are put away from society, right? And so I didn't know what I was gonna get when I watched it, but it's at this particular place they're putting a lot of energy and resources into
rehabilitation. Yeah, is that what you would call it?
Rehabilitation, because the majority, if not all, were offended as children. They were abused, raped, some by their own mother. The guy, I can't remember his name, but the one who exposed himself to a little girl, I can't remember. But anyway, his mom was the one that, molested him. Then that lady that I sent you, her dad. So
But
it was crazy.
thing. So this documentary follows several different pedophiles.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, or not funny, but crazy because when they interview the counselor that's counseling these people, right? My first thought is like, why do you even care this much? Like, they should all fucking just fry in hell. And it's funny because those were actually his words, Rob. He said, and I know most people think they should all fry in hell, but there's more to this. And I was like, I cannot have any type of sympathy, or I just cannot even say, well, you know what? They went through this. So we'll start with person number one, because I also don't remember their name. But person number one grew up in also an abusive home, verbally and physically. And then the babysitter, which was a female babysitter, was basically doing stuff to him and his brother.
Oh, so it wasn't the mom. It was the babysitter.
it was
You're
the
right. That's the one
babysitter.
I was talking about. Okay.
So the crazy thing about that is, though, if any boy were to hear that, they're like, who cares? She's a teenage girl babysitting you. Wouldn't you think, Rob?
Of course.
She's finna touch on me. I'm gonna let her
but he
touch
was
on me.
like
I don't know
8.
why that's what I see boys doing, but it created this monster is what ended up happening, because then he developed a fetish for underwear,
Yeah.
smelling women's underwear, just kind of like masturbating to women's underwear and so forth. So this man, the story here is where I already know where it was going, Marissa, when he said he pulled over, their car broke down. He pulled over to go get help, left his son and his wife, right? Newborn son, because he joined the military super young. I guess this must be when they used to is that when they used to were they allowed to enroll super young before they were 18? Because he said he got his girlfriend, he was 16, the girlfriend was 15, and he got her pregnant. But he said because he had such a rough childhood, he finally felt like he had something of his own, and he could not believe this little human was a part of him, right? So he married the girl, went to the military. He was about to start this family, right? Because he didn't want to repeat that family that he already had. It's what his story is. So then he pulls over because their car breaks down.
This was in the 80s?
Yes. And he goes to find help. Rob is
because there was no phones.
No phones back then, you know? So he walks to the nearest gas station that he can find. And then he comes back to find
a tractor trailer
over their vehicle and basically killed his wife and the baby. A drunk person.
Yeah.
So he spent the last 20 years trying to find ways to kill himself because he just didn't have a purpose. Finally, he meets this woman and he says, I had no business marrying her, but he just kind of felt like, well, let me just marry her, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah. So he married her, and when he married her, there was a lot of little weird things happening. I guess they were doing drugs and they would drink and so forth, right? Well, the daughter has a sleepover. Not the stepdaughter has a sleepover, and supposedly, I don't know what happened, but he was accused of touching the friend that slept over, even though the little girl said it wasn't true. The parents claimed him. So that was the first charge. They let him out on probation, and that was it. But here's the crazy one. First of all, I don't understand why the 12-year-old daughter came into his bedroom to show him that her mom's underwear now fit her.
I didn't believe that.
It didn't make sense.
I don't think that he was still trying to accept fully what he had done. So I think maybe that comment where he said, well, she came in, was kind of a way to... He's admitting to what he did, but he's still kind of making it seem like
an excuse.
I didn't initiate this.
Yes.
The interview years down the line with Soft White Underbelly, I think he takes more of,
more of responsibility.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, he claims the little girl came in, 12-year-old little girl came in and said, hey, look, I can wear my mom's underwear now. And because of the fetish, he just starts masturbating in front of her.
It was a trigger.
It's a trigger. So then that's when he went to jail. And then now this is the second offense. So now he's like full blown, like registered sex offender, everything. I guess the first one they let slide because there was really no evidence. Mm-hmm. The little girl was saying no. The parents were saying yes. So there was kind of like it's probation. You get the first time. The second time, now it was like, now there was jail time. Now you have to register. Now you have to live in this, I guess, trailer park type of environment. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's how he ended up there. And so he did say, like, she had no business going through that. He did say, like, this was stuff that, she should have never encountered. I take full responsibility, but still... It's kind of like, bro, she was fucking 12. What were you thinking?
Yeah.
Like, and it all stemmed from a little boy being molested by his babysitter. And he never told, which I feel a lot of children, even teenagers or whatever, who have been molested are afraid to tell their parents because they're afraid the parents, if they grew up in a strict household, maybe the parents being upset with them, or in this case, he did say that.
Because when they found the panties, instead of asking him, why do you have these, they beat the living shit out of him.
So you see what I'm saying?
I'm looking at the comments on, so I'm on your live from the HERR Lounge podcast. People are asking, everyone's like, Pervert Park, it's on YouTube, Pervert Park. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ooh, the chat's, now it's intense.
Yeah. So that was story number one. And while it was kind of like, holy smokes, right? The one that impacted me the most as a mother was the mother who was molested as a child by her father.
Not molested, raped.
All of the above. Anything you can think of that you can do
to a little kid.
To a little kid, the dad did it. Mm-hmm. And she said in some sick way, she actually liked it.
I think when she got older... I don't think as a little kid you can say that you like it, but she started to correlate feeling good and having love to what he was doing to her. Mm-hmm. And I mean... And
that was fucking gross.
But they slept... I don't want to say they slept together. He raped her as a child. But as she got older, of course, she's already thinking, well, this is what we do.
And it's normal.
And they did that until she was in her 20s.
And then she sometimes would still go back, though. That's what was kind of like, to me, what damage did that do to her, to where she thinks that even as an adult, she can come back there and it's normal to still have some kind of relationship with your dad sexually.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, think about that.
But he groomed her to be that way.
Yes. So you're now a whole grown adult. Mm-hmm. Now, I guess those emotions and that psychological torture as a child kind of comes up, and she turns to drugs and starts to drink.
And
right?
She was very promiscuous. 12, 13, 14 years old already, like full on with her foster brothers and sisters. And
just doing all kind of stuff.
Because, of course, she became a ward of the state, you know.
After they found out that part, it doesn't get too deep. So this must be in the interview with Soft Wine. Okay. So then she marries this guy that supposedly everyone wants to have because he's the nicest guy ever. And she's like, I really don't know how I ended up with him. Like, she has no idea how she was, like, where she said, how I got so lucky to have such a good person. They have a kid together. She's still not feeling him because he's too square, I guess, for her, you know? And so then
she continues to cheat and do all kinds of stuff.
And she's drunk one night, bro. And she just molests her son.
He was 8.
8 years old.
And she basically told him the same story that her dad told her. Was like, look, no, well, you missed the whole, okay, so she meets this guy. They have a baby. She was acting like a whore, so that was over and done with. She's a single mom. She's moving from house with friends and taking her kids and going all these places. Well, she ends up meeting a guy on a video. I guess back in the day they used to like.
Yes, and he's the one that asked.
So she meets this guy online, and he told her, he's like, look, you can get away from your dad. You can get away from all your problems if you have sex with your son on video and I can watch. Now, if you ask him, it's not bad. If he gives you permission, then, you know. So she
Do you feel like gagging yet, Rob?
She turns on the video.
It's disgusting.
And asks her son, can I do these things to you? And he's 8. And he says yes.
Because, again, it's almost like the same thing that happened to her, Rob.
Yeah.
This is the person she loves. It's her parent. Why would her parent hurt her?
But she already knew it was wrong. You know what I mean? Like, you feel that it's wrong. You know that it's wrong. And now you're a mom with a kid and you're doing this to him. So one day, so that happens. I don't know how many times it happened, but that happens. Well, he's in daycare.
School, yeah.
At the YMCA. One day the little boys are talking about sex, right? 8 and 9 years old. They're talking about sex. And he says, well, I did have sex. I had sex with my mom.
And they're like, no way, you liar. You know how boys are. You're like, no, you didn't.
Well, when she goes to pick him up that day, they didn't release him to her.
Yeah.
And they had already called the police and
that was it. So now her son
they took him, went to foster care.
Same thing she went through. Happened.
Yep.
You know? And now she talks about her son, and the son ends up doing that to someone else.
He was 13 when he offended a little kid who was about 8.
Yeah. So he repeated it, right? So then he ends up in jail. And then he's also, I guess, I mean, the way he acted out, because I think he was in jail for aggravated assault, right? Robbery. So now he's an adult, goes to jail for robbery. Now he's in jail, you know? And so she said, of all the things, she said she knew she had done so wrong that she didn't care. She signed whatever paperwork the judge was giving her. And the judge was like, you do know what you're signing, right? It's like, whatever my son said is true. I'm not going to, you know what I'm saying, like deny anything. She's like, the only thing I ask is that I still have like the rights to see him, even if it's supervised. And so basically that's how it was. But for the longest, she wasn't able to see him either. They weren't able to see each other. He was in jail. And so, she basically said she caused all that. Her son is in jail because of her. He did the same thing to another little kid when he was little, all because of what she did to him. Mm-hmm. So it was a repeated cycle. So that means that somebody must have done it to dad as well. Her dad.
Yeah.
So somebody did it to her dad. Her dad did it to her. She did it to her own son. I don't know the son's story, but Marissa says there's a whole interview with her on Soft White Underbelly, which is my other obsession. Mm-hmm. So there goes that. So now I'm gonna have to go watch that, Marissa.
But there was one quote that counselor said that I just held on to, which was that when families are silent, all they do is manufacture more predators. With their silence, they continue to manufacture more predators and more predators. And it's true. Mm-hmm. It's true. Mm-hmm. Nobody says shit, so you can't end that cycle.
Yeah.
Because they hide behind religion or they hide behind their reputation or whatever it is, and they just zip it and throw it away.
I can't imagine as a parent, my son being afraid to tell me that someone has touched them inappropriately or has, just done things that are not supposed to, and they be afraid to come tell me. Mm-hmm. It's just like, you just can't. You have to have that kind of, find your way, whatever way that is. So there's an open door so that should that or ever that even be a little bit of the case,
yep,
your child is able to come to you and say, you know what I'm saying? Hey, mom, so-and-so, did this to me. And then you go confront it. But as a parent also, like people that do silence that, I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand like the silence of that. So I know someone whose daughter was touched, went to have a family meeting, and the family meeting was basically like, that's probably not possible, but if it is, imagine what it would do to our family.
Wow.
Imagine how it would separate our family if this were true.
And it does, and it will.
And so who cares?
Mm-hmm. Who gives a shit? Fuck those people.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like that person. And then the same thing needs to be asked to that kid. Why did you do it?
Yep.
Who did it to you? Because that means now it's been happening and someone's been doing it to you.
Yep.
So who did it to you?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because again, it's almost like what that man said when they found the underwear, instead of asking like, why do you have the underwear? It was an immediate spanking, right? So if this is happening, it should be asked like, why did you do that? And who did it to you?
Because sometimes they just don't want to know. It's going to make them too uncomfortable. They're going to have to face too many things and answer too many questions, maybe have to self-reflect on their decisions as a parent. And they just don't want to go there. You know what I mean? So it's better to just whip his ass and move on. That's it. And that's what people do.
Rob is real quiet right now. This is the quietest I've ever heard Rob before, just so y'all know.
It's just a lot.
This is the quietest I've ever heard you, Rob. You've had zero comment. You've had a zero You've just been like...
This is bizarre. So now I got the people in the chat that I'm keeping up with asking what the documentary, people are coming in and out. I got the Discord going, and I'm also following the story, which is wild. So...
Oh my God, dude. It's just
everyone's
so
just
sad.
like, oh my God, where do I watch this? I'm sick. I'm physically ill, but also fascinated.
And even talking about it still kind of grosses me out.
Yeah.
You know?
It's disgusting.
When she sent it to me, honestly, I was first afraid to click it because I was like, ooh, is that going to flag me as a pervert, on YouTube? Like, I don't want to click it. But then I thought about all the soft white underbelly videos I watch, and that already kind of shows what my algorithm
You're already
is.
on a
so
list.
I'm already on some kind of list of weirdo for watching this stuff. Because even there, like, I just watched this one about a prostitute on soft white underbelly, and I was in the shot, this is when I watch them, right? And man, it really teared me up with this little girl because she doesn't know what she is, meaning she didn't. So he asked, like, so do you know who your mom or your dad is? She's like, I have no clue. they just gave me up. So I don't
just
know.
exists.
I don't know what I am. So he's like, so are you Hispanic? Why? He's like, I don't know. I don't know who my mom is. I don't know who my dad is. I have zero clue. Like even where to look. Like there's no documentation. So then she gets adopted. Okay.
Oh no.
And it didn't work out. So they sent her ass back, and now she gets adopted again. And so the second time she gets adopted, they were trying to physically abuse her.
Yeah.
Right? Sexually abuse her as well. She said, peace out, bitches. I'm not putting up with this, and bounced. And now she was a kid on the street trying to make ends meet.
Selling her
So
ass.
she starts to sell her ass. Exactly. Like Marissa just said. And so she just goes on there and starts to, she becomes a prostitute, but she tries to get away with it. Get away from it, excuse me. So she gets a job. She'll try to get a job, right? But then the pandemic happened and she's like, how do I survive? Because everything was shut down.
Yeah.
So then she had to go back to prostituting because she was trying to get her life together. And so, she just talked about how she learned to survive, meaning she just kind of felt like there's no need for me to have a pimp because why would I give my money to someone else? Like this is my money.
Yeah.
It's basically like my vagina. I'm the one prostituting this vagina.
Vagina.
And
They call those ladies without a pimp renegades.
renegades. It's exactly what she said she is. And so then finally she said she did get a pimp and it just kind of didn't work out. And she basically trained this guy to be her pimp because it was the guy she was dating. So she was dating him. She was the one that created the pimp. It was like, you watch my back. But the crazy thing is that she's so young. And she said that even like other prostitutes have said how crazy she is because she says that she's looked killers in their face. Like when they've tried to kill her and said, oh, bro, it's going to be me or you. You're not killing me. And so she's fighting back. So she said usually that scares the fuck out of the people who are trying to kill her because they expect for her to start yelling and screaming. She's like, I'm fighting back. She goes, but it's going to be me or you, and it ain't going to be me.
Yeah.
So she's fighting back. So a lot of the prostitutes were like, you're crazy. So she was telling the story about how fast things can happen because she said she had a customer or a trick, right? That's what they're called. Had a trick. And the trick didn't finish, right? So because he didn't finish, she was kind of pissed. So she's like, I'm out of here. I did my job, bro. So that's your problem, So gets her money. She's about to walk out. He's pissed and he starts choking her. When she said this is the reason why she felt like there's no need to have a pimp because she said the guy that she was supposedly dating that was supposed to be watching her back, she texted him and said, hey, I'm walking up to wherever he was at. So it's like, if I didn't come up there in the last 5 minutes, then why didn't you come looking for me? Meanwhile, I'm fighting for my life because this guy's choking her and trying to kill her. And she's finally able to get away and goes upstairs. And meanwhile, that guy's so high up there, he had no clue this poor girl's downstairs getting choked, But it's situations like that. And the part that made me just cry is I pictured this little baby being given to a family and then that family saying this baby no longer works for us, gives it back to the state. Now the state has to find a new family. Now you go to a new family and this new family is now basically just doing all kind of inappropriate things to you. So you've just bounced around. You don't know who your parents are. They gave you she says she thinks her mom was a drug addict. That's all she knows. She thinks, but has no clue because there's no registration of her mother. I didn't even know that was possible, not to have some kind of registration of a mother.
I mean, anything could have happened. Somebody could have left her at the fire department. Somebody could have left her at the doors of a hospital. Anything could have happened. But when you think about the foster care system, it kind of is a sex trafficking ring because they've stripped funding that would go to these places where we would be able to pay for proper counseling. People who make these visits very often. When you hear about people who work for the foster care system, I mean, you're so bombarded with hundreds and hundreds of cases. How can one person go and police absolutely everything? But because the funding's been stripped, and let me change that. They do give the funding to organizations like this, The problem is, where are they allotting the money to? Not to counselors, not to
not to
people
counselors. The counselors barely make any money.
barely making any money.
And we're talking
it's going
about
into the pockets of these people,
Yes.
the higher ups.
And we're talking about bachelor's and master's degrees.
Yup.
And they're not even making what they're
Yup.
supposed to be making, yet they're doing
Yup.
it just solely for the sake of hoping to save some children.
Yeah.
I had to leave. I couldn't do it anymore. I was going home with
too much.
too much
Yeah.
when I worked for the foster care system. When you place a child in a home where you think they've made it and you're happy that they're happy, like I said, I can count on one hand, actually 3 fingers, of the good parents that I knew of at that foster care system. And
because they're getting a lot of money. My neighbor,
Yes.
I don't know if they
Yes.
listen, but my neighbor is a foster parent. Now, him and his wife have separated, and I'm still really good friends with the wife, and the husband, he's the one that still lives there. He's got 3 foster boys right now. She sent me a screenshot of the deposits that they get. I mean, it's like $3,000 a kid.
Oh, and then
not
they
to
get
mention
food
they get food
stamps.
stamps.
Yes,
That's right.
and
They
all
get-
their and the health care is
and
also
their
taken
daycare is
care of.
also subsidized
Yes.
should they need it. I mean,
Yes.
they're getting a lot of stuff. So these people who are fostering, now I'll sit here and tell you that he's not sexually offending these children, but yes, he might be doing it for the money. He's got a new pool. He's got all of this stuff. And so, again, they're in a home where they're protected, at least, they're not being abused and not being sexually abused, verbally abused. But he's gone a lot. You know what I mean? There's one older boy that lives there that his history is pretty bad. Him and his sister were forced to do things to each other. He's 13 years old. And he's in a house with 2 more boys. One of them is really small. And I just worry, or maybe it's me. Maybe because of my experiences, I feel like everybody's a sicko. But is it just me? Or is it possible that someone can be so abused that he might be perpetuating these things and doing the same thing to these kids? So when I just have a thought like that, I just have to pray and be like, okay, God, you know what? You're right. Let me just be positive and not, you know what I mean? Let me stop. But those are things that I think about because kids can be offenders too. I mean, look at that lady's son.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're bad. They were born an innocent, precious child. And it's just an adult took advantage of that innocence.
Yep.
And
it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
And not everybody becomes an offender, but you never know what you're going to get when you sexually abuse a child. Will they become an offender? Will they become, or will they not?
Yeah.
What will they be? It's a crapshoot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that whole documentary, after I watched it, I was like, holy smokes. I was like, it's insane. The rehabilitation part of it, I don't know that. And check this out. I think one of them talked about they have like a monitor on their penis as a form of rehabilitation. And what they do is to see if it's still like, if you're being cured, I guess, is kind of what the whole thing is. But
if a child were to walk by
and you get
erect.
So it's on it's almost like a lie detector test, but for your penis.
But how would you know if a woman is having those thoughts?
Yeah, I don't
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Moisture.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true.
That's
but I don't
true.
know that how would a machine detect that versus
Rob should invent something. That
I mean,
detects
I'm
it.
on it. I'm on it. I'm going to need some samples.
The moisture machine. That's what we're gonna call it.
So
We needed something to break that up.
Yeah.
It's been a heavy half hour.
Ooh,
Rob's like,
but that's
so
reality,
cheap.
and
It is, and
I
that's
always
the
try to
problem that
stay
we
there.
have.
I try to not be so in my little world. I know that things are still happening. Do I appreciate my life and my kids and everything? Absolutely, but there's so many kids that need help.
Yeah, there's so many kids that need help. I 100% agree with that. That's what I'm saying. I couldn't do the foster
need
care system
rescuing.
big time. I
God.
could not work there anymore. I wanted to adopt every child that was there, and I said, if I don't get out of here, I'm gonna gonna just I'm gonna be a depressed person because I left there depressed every time.
Yeah.
Like, and the money wasn't even good, to be honest with you. Like, the money was shitty.
40,000.
Yeah. And that's the ones with master's degrees.
How much?
40,000 about. I don't know if it's changed now. This is years ago. So imagine that. Yeah. This was years ago.
They're no longer, fact check me on this, I'm not sure where I heard it's happening in one of these states, in multiple states, where they're no longer trying to place them with family members first because there's more money when you send them with a fucking stranger.
You're 100% correct. That is very true. The first option,
sex trafficking fucking ring. It's there for all of us to see.
Yep.
They're making money, sending them into homes that they haven't been vetted. They're not going and checking those kids.
It's funny because there's so many rules to becoming a foster parent. Like, they come check your house. Then they get a fire marshal to also come in to check your home. You've got to go through all these training courses, right, as a foster parent as well, because they're trying to find the best home for these children, right? It's silly. I'm just going to be honest. It's just silly.
It's all an act.
Like, they're not really caring that much.
Yeah, it's an act.
I think it's just for paperwork personally. Like, yeah, we went down the checklist. They have the space, they have the bed, they have the room. Fire marshal went and checked. We're good to go. They're approved, you know? Some of them get denied, but they have to make the changes. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So they'll have to go and, like, let's just hypothetically say, well, there's not a bunk bed. There's only one bed, and she's taking 2 kids. So one kid has to be, like, if you fostered like a boy and a girl, they can't be in the same room. It has to be all boys in one room and all girls in another room. You know what I'm saying? So, like, little things,
that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. Like little things like that you're denied for. Again, this was early 2000s, so I don't know what it's like now. We're talking about that's, almost 20 years ago, So whatever that was like 20 years ago, but it's just crazy to see. And I think that I think that these children that get put in these situations, it's like they're helpless. They don't know any better. They're assuming that you're the adult, that you're supposed to be the protector, the one that's going to do the best, to make decision making for them. You're the one that surely has, the best interest for them. Surely you do. And then you fuck around. Like, there was one little girl that had no home to go to, and she was about to be released. So the foster agency that I worked for also housed juvenile kids. Mm-hmm. And so the foster parent was their halfway home.
Yeah.
It's because they don't have halfway houses for juveniles. And so back then, I don't know if they do now. They probably do now. I'm sure that was a long time ago. So she came in and she calls the sister first. And she's like, hey, I'm about to get released in 2 weeks. Like, can I come stay with you? And she, the sister's like, well, there's no room for you here. I've got so-and-so living here. And, the kids, where will you sleep? Type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, well, I can sleep on the floor. It doesn't matter. She's like, well, I'll let you know. Call me next week. Now she calls the brother, and the brother's like, you can't stay here. Like, where are you going to sleep? Same thing. Like, I have no room for you, Well, where's mom and dad? Well, mom has a boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And so mom's like, don't even call me. Like, my boyfriend doesn't want you to stay with us. So that was an automatic no. And this girl was maybe about 13, 14. So she was really young. Okay. So right at that age, and then how she ended up there was, so the brother, in order to get initiated into his gang,
oh my God,
y'all already know what they did to her, and so, and then she just acted out and started misbehaving, and got in some trouble, and that's how she ended up in juvenile, and then she was, rehabilitated now. And so they were going to let her out. Her or her foster parent, they were done with her. And so she had nowhere to go, y'all. She had nowhere to go. And I seriously was like 2 notches from just saying, I would have been in so much trouble. And I was just like, do I just tell her she can come? I mean, I lived on my own. I had my own apartment. So I was like, do I let her come stay with me? Like, how do I offer her a place to stay? And I had already gotten written up for giving away free stuff to these girls. So I couldn't. I was like on my last strike. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. So I brought clothes. I donated to 2 of the little girls because it was prom.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't imagine going to prom with like
a potato sack.
I don't know. And it was probably, I don't know. So I came and I called the foster parent because I know who the foster parent is. And I just said, hey, I know they're going to prom. She had both the girls. And I said, I have some dresses, I can have them here at the place and you can come pick it up, So she came and picked it up. And so no one would have ever found out except she wrote a thank you note. The foster mom did.
Yeah.
Got him.
And she wrote a thank you note. And that's how they found out I had donated. And so they're like, that is like, you can't do that. It's against the rules. I don't know what code of conduct I broke or something. And so I was just like, bro, like I couldn't. I had plenty of dresses in my closet that were unworn with tags. And I just couldn't imagine them having to go. Not that there's anything wrong with it, guys. I'm not saying, but like having to go to like Goodwill or anything like that on their one special day, that one memory that you have in high school, where a boy makes a sign and says, will you go to prom with me or whatever, I just like the thought of that, like that experience to like, I don't know. I just wanted to make one thing good for them so they could at least have one good thought when they graduated high school. Anyway, they didn't know how to really punish me, to be honest with you, because of the fact that they were sending a thank you note and it wasn't like a complaint, but I had also broken a rule. Yeah. So it was one of those things. And so it was like, I got to get out of here. I can't do this. Like I'm going to end up taking all these kids home. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going to happen, And so I just had to get out of there because it just breaks your heart. Like these stories. I did picture this lady as she talked about her father abusing her, even though she was a grown adult. I did picture her as a kid and her father doing that because I can't even imagine my father doing that. My dad would never, you know what I'm saying? Like we are daddy's girls, so like my dad would never. So to do that to your own child. And then when she said she did it to her kid, I said,
I know.
Ma'am.
I feel like I knew where it was going.
Oh, man.
And I was like,
shocked,
no.
Marissa.
No.
Don't say it.
No.
And it happened.
God. And it's hard not to sympathize, because a part of you is like, fuck them, they need to burn in hell.
Yes.
But then the other part is like,
okay. But true story, I felt more bad for her than I did any of the men.
Me too.
Isn't that weird? And
Me
that's
too.
such a sexist thing, I know.
But
I feel like
I don't.
What? Say it.
I don't know.
What do you mean?
I don't know why. I just felt like
You know why? Because women's lives are just more valuable than men's.
It's true.
it is.
And it just is what it is.
It just is.
I'm so glad you said that, Rob.
Nobody gives a shit about Rome and what he's got to go through.
Yeah. Nobody gives a fuck.
And that I only work 15 hours a week. Nobody cares.
Nobody gives a fuck.
What he's got to pay for.
Rome, you have bills to pay? Who cares?
Oh my God.
Rome, you have private
Nobody
schools to pay? No one cares, Rome.
Nobody cares. and I'm always like, I'm tired. And he's like, me too.
If there's a tragedy where 15 women and children die, the world stops. If there's a tragedy where 15 men die, the world moves on immediately. No one gives a fuck.
Well, everybody's sad, but no one makes a big of a deal.
It's true.
We're just like poor men.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe if that.
Hopefully they had life insurance for their family type of thing,
And if they didn't, we're concerned for the women again. Like,
Yeah.
what are they going to do?
All I know is this is all Joe Biden's fault. Everything is his fault. Pervert Park, all of it. All of it.
Well, especially with him being okay with, affirming all these genders. Oh my God.
What do you mean?
So, well, he keeps signing those things where, they should have their own laws and, trans rights are rights. And I don't know what rights they don't have, but, I still haven't figured out what rights they don't have.
Okay, fine. There's 5,000 genders. That's fine. But there's only 2 sexes. That's it.
It's time to shift this over to the
That's
Patreon,
it.
guys.
Huh?
It's time to shift over to the Patreon.
Oh,
Let's
it
do
is.
it.
All right.
Where can everybody go that's watching on the live stream?
Everyone who watched the live stream, thank you for staying on. I don't know how many even watched.
Quite a few.
Okay, well, thank you for staying on. If you haven't yet, come on over to HERR Lounge Podcast.
Amen.
On Spotify and on Apple. And on YouTube as well. We are under HERR Lounge Podcast, so as well on the YouTube channel. Then Marissa also has a podcast. Marissa, tell them where they can find...
The Queen is Dead on YouTube.
And then premium content for
And then
her
premium
lounge.
content, guys. So we do drop 2 episodes per week, one on Wednesday, which is open to the public. And then on Fridays, it's for our paywall episode, which is for all my patrons. So if you haven't yet, if you're curious, want to be a part of Her World, come on over, HERR Lounge Podcast. So you go to Patreon/HERR Lounge Podcast. Come join. You can join for as little as $1. And all the way to, you can be a patrona, which is all my, shout out to all my patronas, who, if y'all are watching. So just come on over. We got a cool community, a bunch of women who are supporting women. We got a few men in there. Don't worry. There's like 4 of them, and they're the,
4 of
you
them.
know, there's like 4 of them. They're the best. They're the coolest. So we welcome them anytime. So thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see y'all Friday.